Hello everybody and welcome to Case Management Practice 1, Week 5. And this week we are here with Amanda, Sully and Carly, and Danny might be popping in a bit later. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about assessments, any questions around the assessments that we might have, and talking about the week's learning in terms of needs assessment and goals for our individual clients and for our case studies, especially our clients around the assessments that will appear in week 6, which is your online presentations.
So that's done in week 6, is it?
I think it's week 6, yes. When you're doing your case studies, we have to pick a client.
Yep.
And then we do the case studies, and I've done some stuff for you around that, and I'll be able to give you a link to that. But it's already there on the page. If you look in the page, I've already left a link for you in the discussion forum where you can access some files. And I can show you this already. Do we want to start here? Do you want to start with the assessments? That's probably more pressing. So if we have any questions after that, we can deal with them. Let's start with the assessments then. So I'll share my screen. I have to apologize for the mess that is my screen. I've got all sorts of stuff open here. Let's open up Case Management Practice 1. I'm one of those organic workers. I'm doing 58 different things. Going, I'll have a bit of that over there, a bit of that over there. Then eventually it comes true and it all comes about. So we go to week 4, assessing need, and we've got this activity assessing need. So we open this up. Now you see that little cabinet, that little case study cabinet. I've changed this a little bit from the time you might have been in here, but this is for next semester. I've prepared it. So I've changed up this activity. We're forgetting about Claire a little bit later for next trimester, but this will help you with your assessments for our course this week. So we're going to open up the filing cabinet, open the client files, which you won't be able to find now. Well, may as well just go and open them right up. So we're in the client files, and this starts to help you unpack some of your requirements for assessment 1. Okay, sorry, assessment 1 is the resources, right? And assessment
Yes.
1 you're doing.
Yes.
Oh, this is assessment 6. This isn't the resource folders. In which case,
Portfolio of support services.
the portfolio.
That's due week 5, but part B is the client assessment interviews, which is due week 7.
And that is this one.
That's due week.
End of week 6. Week 7's a holiday, right?
Yeah, and then don't we have we've got the workshop.
Oh,
then,
maybe
don't we?
I see a point. It's all clear as mud, isn't it? Actually, let's go back. Let's go back to let's go back to the classes. Find you another class. We'll open it up because we'll find out where it is. Running a little bit slow because I've got so much open, but we'll open this, and here's where we find this information all the time, right? So here, under general information, subject information, we can open this as a pop-up, and under subject information you can get everything you need. There's a quick breakdown of the assessment, and there's the downloadable assessment guide. If you click that, that'll download as a Word document for you.
Yeah.
So just again, I'll just remind you where that is. On the front page under subject information.
Yes.
So subject central, subject information. And we've got templates for assessments here. And I'm going to suggest you don't have to use them all. because I don't think they're very good. But
Oh,
some of them are required. Some of them are appendix that you need to use. So if we look at the resource appendix here, we'll look at this week's assessment first. Appendix, assessment interview checklist, report, case management, service referral, support services information sheet, appendix 1. This is what you need for this week's assessment.
Yeah.
Here we go. Right. So we're going to fill in these. You've got to fill in 5 of these, and we've got to go. You've got to think about who our clients are: Aaron, Kylie, and Maria, and you have a look at their needs. But we've kind of spent a couple of weeks looking at their needs, and then you've got to go around your local community and find support agencies. 5 support agencies. You've got to fill in 5 of these sheets. Okay? You don't have to put the client name, but you upload 5 of these documents. Okay?
Yeah.
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 If let's think about some of the support needs for our clients. What are some of the support needs?
Drug and alcohol support for the first one, Kylie.
For Kylie, okay, AOD services. What sort of services? Because there's all sorts here. Are we talking about a rehab? Are we talking about AA? Are you talking about local?
Well, it's you would have to sort of discuss that with the client.
Well, no, we want to kind of try and pick the right one. Because we had a look at the client's needs.
I think maybe
What?
counselling service for Kylie to like maybe, you know, unpack a little bit more of the previous stuff that's starting to bubble up and that she's having to deal with.
Which stuff's that, Sally?
The stuff about her childhood, the childhood abuse and
Okay.
foster situation.
Good, good, good. So we've got 2 needs there. We've got AOD for Kylie, and we've got childhood sexual abuse. So counselling, and maybe, remember, we've got to think about some of these. Remember we talked about thinking about which are the symptoms and which are the presenting needs.
What about mental health assessment, or maybe PTSD or some trauma sort of therapy?
For who?
Perhaps. For Kylie, for traumatic abuse from when she was a kid. Yeah. So.
Okay.
I don't know if you do a mental health assessment.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe a mental health assessment. That might be appropriate. Where would you get a mental health assessment, Adrienne?
My name's Danny.
Oh, well, you're Danny.
Andrew is my husband. Yeah, I don't know. I had trouble. Sorry, I'm late.
Old one. Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, I had trouble trying to download the Zoom. But anyway.
All right, Danny, welcome.
Thank you. Mental health. I'm not sure if would you refer to a GP and then.
Could we talk about this? Who else could you refer to?
Psychiatric nurse.
Yeah.
Psychiatric nurse, maybe, yes. Psychiatric nurse, yeah. Anyone else?
Could you have already kind of had links with different organisations and maybe have access to their intake forms, or you may have developed one around various different needs that, you know, an assessment form to help you pinpoint, you know, what are the areas that Kylie and her family aren't coping with so well?
Yeah, and I've kind of loaded one
like
of
a
those.
risk assessment?
I've loaded one of those up for you. The risk assessment let's look at that next week. This coming week. I don't want to confuse the risk assessment right now because that's another layer of complexity. We're just going to kind of sit on identifying need and then setting goals. So in a way, I'm going to change this around a bit because doing this right now isn't the best idea, is it? Because we're kind of starting at the end, aren't we? We haven't done our formal assessment with any of our clients, but somehow we're identifying services to refer them to. So it's a bit weird. I'm fixing this. Don't worry. I didn't make this. I'm making the fix for it. So yeah. So we've got an assessment form for Kylie, and if you follow that link, that little filing cabinet picture link I showed you, and I will put that again variously in the coming weeks, so you can actually access that filing cabinet more easily. There will be in there. Shall I show you that? We've got this form. We'll come back to that form. That form we don't need at all. Templates for assessments, we aren't on there. Where are we? No, we're not in there. We might be in there. Oh, I'll stop the share there. Sorry about that. I've lost me. There we are. Let me move that down to the end. I've got so much open, I just turned off the share screen. Okay, gonna go back. Right, so we should be here in the client files. So if we look in the client filing cabinet, I've made some forms for you. And this is fairly helpful, I think, to help you see what's happening. So let's have a look at one of the forms we've got. Let's start with Aaron. Oh, maybe we'll start with Kylie. Actually, let's start with Kylie because we're on Kylie, aren't we? I've made a little intake form for you. And this sort of is the same kind of information. I've just presented it in a different way. Let me shrink that down a little bit. So we've got a little picture of Kylie and some details about Kylie and her address and things. And we've got a list of her presenting issues here. Can we see that? Is that all clear?
Yep.
So it just explains what's happened with Kylie. It talks about her sexual abuse, talks about her family situation slightly, and it talks about her polysubstance use. So the polysubstance use is terminology relating to the fact that she's drinking and she's using medications at the same time, which we will identify later in next week as a risk that we might want to think about. But
they're also symptoms, aren't they?
well, yeah. So what are the symptoms? What are the needs? What's the big issue behind all this, Sally?
Well, I think the big issue is that she hasn't been able to be heard about the fact that she's been sexually abused in the past. I really think that's probably where it's all stemming from.
Okay, and that looks very likely here, doesn't it? So what we need
Based
to
on the
do,
information.
if we fix that, we could probably see that we can see a pathway. Might not happen. It's not a magic world, but we can see a pathway to addressing the other problems as well. So the substance use, the polysubstance use might not be an issue if she feels that it's a long-term fix, right? Now, Danny mentioned a mental health assessment. That's not inappropriate either. So we're kind of addressing that problem. We don't know what the PTSD, this long-term trauma of sexual abuse might require a mental health assessment to find out if she's suffering from some depression, perhaps, and that therefore the doctor might medicate her and say, look, you can't drink, but you might want some antidepressants to help you get by and to help you then emotionally manage sifting through your history of sexual abuse that you need to confront yourself with in an counseling type environment. And that as a way forward, it might take years for Danny to cut, might take 10 years. You know,
Yeah.
Who knows? There's no time limit on this, but this becomes a pathway that we see to be able to help Danny understand what the problem is. So the anxiety that she's suffering, and that might be also related to her children and her own background, but she's projecting that onto her children's situation, where there is no evidence of any presenting issues for her children. She's suffering anxiety about her 1-year-old and 5-year-old daughters, maybe suffering the same thing, but nothing in
Does
her.
it often happen?
What?
So that, well, if Kylie is now in a happy place in her marriage and her children are well and healthy and safe, that she's actually in a place where she can kind of start to unpack some of her earlier traumatic events that have occurred, and that may be why all this sort of stuff is happening at this time?
Maybe, you know, maybe the fact that she's got some children as well is bringing that. Some people can bury that, some people can't bury it.
There's often triggers, isn't there?
Yeah, but, you know, when you say, is it common, we could talk about it does happen. I don't know that there's enough research and actual, you know, effective statistical understanding to be able to say this is how it always works. We don't know,
Okay.
but this can be a scenario where that might be a reasonable assumption to make, Sally. And as we are workers, we're assuming things. We have to go on what we've got, right?
It's like making a hypothesis, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you know, as long as we are tending towards the nurturing, caring kind of environment, then we're probably not doing a bad thing. You know, we're just covering our bases, thinking about, we might be entirely wrong. You know, there might be something else.
Yeah.
But and this might be the first layer of the onion that gets unpacked. You know, so
having client-centered communication, she may bring up more information that helps to kind of direct your understanding of what's happening in a different way, or
yeah,
see
exactly,
how the different path or whatever.
She could have been making it all up as a child, and that stems from her homeostasis situation, a loss of placement, and trying to find, you know, and only over a period of time that she realizes maybe there was no abuse, and who knows, you know. I'm just saying that is unlikely to happen, by the way. I'm just but there's nothing laid in stone here. That is what I'm saying too, that people are very, very complex, and it's mostly you just provide the circumstances that support people, and that is all we do, really. Especially in this brokerage model, where we're not providing any clinical case management, we're not skilled and trained in specific areas, so all we do is linking people to the correct place. So we're clear about that. So in this first assessment due at the end of week 5, you've got to fill in 5 forms. And now we need to get some different support organizations for different clients. We've got 3 different clients. This was Kylie. Should we have a look at another one? Let's have a look at somebody else. Who else have we got? We've got Aaron here. Let's have a look at Aaron. So this is Aaron. Let me shrink him down a bit. So this is Aaron. Aaron is living at home with his family. Aaron's got, these are kind of more of a simulation of what you're likely to experience in a service, when you understand how people are represented to you as clients in services, rather than the paper assessment that you've got in front of you. So Aaron's been living at home with his family. He's becoming increasingly aggressive. There's a lack of motivation, some conflict with his father, and his father's asked him to leave home. So we've got some concerns about a year and a bit ago. Aaron's now 19, and when he was in year 18, he started to fail in school. Year 12, year 18. So when he's 18, in year 12, he started to fail in school. And he was a model student, and then his grades dropped away. He's become withdrawn. He's become aggressive, and he's not able to really talk about it. Difficult to pin down the cause of his problems, but the family conflict and the social isolation. He's isolating himself in his bedroom. He's not motivated to be involved in educational work. What do we want to do for Aaron?
I suggested reconnect before, and I still stand by it after doing more research on it because it's one of my 5 for assessment. I think Reconnect's a perfect service for him to go to. They deal with reconnecting with families. They also have drug and alcohol stuff as well. I'm trying to look at my thing, what else they have.
Amanda, can you just explain also why are we going to reconnect? Because he's living at home with his family, so why are you referring him there again?
Because he's at risk of homelessness because his father's asked him to leave, and Reconnect's job is to reconnect teenagers with their families and support that. That's their whole core value.
Cool, yeah. Perfect. That's perfect. That'd be certainly my pick. And in terms of Aaron's, so what do we think is that? We've got symptoms and we've got the real issues. What are the symptoms? What are the issues for Aaron, do we think?
Probably drug use
Okay.
due to his lack of interest and his withdrawal from his family. There's just so many things that would probably scream drug use.
It's interesting you say that. That could be a thing. Drug use is an interesting diagnosis. Might be drug use. Is that all though?
Maybe depression could cause, like a lot of people that have depression do turn to drugs and alcohol and things like that. So maybe.
But there's no evidence of any substance use here. There's literally no words that talk about substance. Amanda's come up with an interesting theory, which is not necessarily wrong. No one's got a right or wrong answer because we've only got limited assessment brief here. But there's literally nothing that says drug use except for the coincidental evidence of how he's presenting with in his life. Lack of motivation smells like marijuana. Social isolation smells like marijuana. Is there anything else though? If we think about this, see what?
Well, I was going to say, just that his problem started as an 18-year-old. So, I mean, it's possible there may even be a medical reason for it, like might have had glandular fever or something that's kind of, upset his chemistry or... Very
good, yeah. And Danny, you mentioned a mental health assessment, did you?
Yeah, I said maybe depression, like a lot of the time people sleep a lot and they lack motivation and direction in their life if they're depressed.
But maybe even schizophrenia or something like that even?
Yep.
Could be. Now, all of these are excellent. Could be dual diagnosis, right? What was the dual diagnosis? Do we know what that is?
2 things.
Two presenting issues.
What 2 things specifically?
Maybe drug use coupled with some kind of a mental issue.
Perfect, Sally. That is exactly what that is, yeah. So a dual diagnosis is people kind of self-medicate sometimes, or people don't realise that they have a mental health problem and they use substances. So dual diagnosis. The reason why that is a big issue is because the one issue compounds the other. One problem compounds the other problem. So that is a big problem. So we've got possible dual diagnosis, possible mental health, possible substance use. And these are all excellent. Now, what is the presenting issue? What, Aaron, do we know? We've got his aggression as well. Look at this top line here. He's increasingly aggressive, fighting with his father. And that's led his father to say, you need to leave the family home. And that is, that's kind of Oedipal, isn't it? That's the original idea of Oedipal kind of conflict with the parents, with the male figure in the family. But if we're looking at this in terms of his other isolation, the aggression and the isolation, and the suddenness of it is very, very interesting, because kind of drug use kind of creeps up over time, doesn't it? But maybe not teenagers kind of fall into a gang and go, yeah, let's smoke a load of dope. Yeah, that's great. Or I was like being a real young person then. I'm sure you felt that.
Something might have happened, like maybe, I don't know, someone passed away, something happened at school, or...
Very good, Danny. That's what I wanted to get to as
Yes.
well. Something happened, because it happened immediately.
It was a trigger.
So, some
Could it
kind
be
of
he did,
trigger.
or he did try marijuana for the first time?
Yeah, but that tends not to be kind of, people call it a gateway drug, but it tends not to be kind of one of these, people, for example, might have quite an adverse reaction to hallucinogenic substance, where that might really alter their kind of brain chemistry as a teenager when they're kind of very vulnerable. But marijuana tends not to be that kind of.
But I know that 2 people have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and they reckon, well, as they've told me, it was a result originally of like the first time they ever tried marijuana, they had this psychotic episode, and
Really? The first time? The first
Yeah.
time?
Really? In two different episodes, 2 different people.
Really? Okay. I've got to say, I've not heard of that before, but
I thought it must be a thing.
long term, yes. Marijuana-based psychosis, where people, really become, increasingly paranoid and things like that. Yeah.
Could it have something to do with Aaron's sexuality at that age?
Hey, it could do. Carly, that's cold.
Could that be maybe why he's clashing a bit with his father?
Maybe. You see, none of these answers are wrong, or all of them are correct in the way that you are going, how do we hedge our bets here? So as long as you make an argument. So Carly, you might want to write down, due to the suddenness of Aaron's aggression and the conflict with his father, maybe he's got an issue around his sexuality, which he's not comfortable with, and therefore, where would you go? What would be the right places to go and start sending him?
Headspace.
Yeah, counselling.
Counselling and Headspace. Gold. Counselling and Headspace. So all of these things can get looked at in one go, can't they? All of them can be looked at with one kind of referral. But it's not a bad idea to get your head around. We don't know a lot on this guy, and there's a potential wide range of issues. And I kind of like Danny's idea as well, which was that there's maybe some sudden issue. Maybe he was bullied. Maybe he's suffering some big grief issue. Maybe he had a love affair which went wrong, and he's just taken it very badly. Some people are extremely sensitive, and at that young age, those things take on great meaning for young people. So we don't know. It's worthwhile recognizing that these are these the symptoms or the triggers? These the issues, the presenting issues, or the symptoms? Do we think?
Symptoms.
So
They'll be presenting issues.
and we don't know what the real need is here, do we? Because and that's all right. Not knowing is, as long as we say we don't know, it's okay. So you would, if it was me, if I was writing a referral, I would say to the referring person, have a chat about this person's issues with substances, as Amanda said. Do a quick mental health assessment around depression. Discuss any issues that have immediately arisen. Talk about the person's sexual and gender identities, and just find out why they feel that they're not worthy or respected in the family home, because all of those issues could come to bear there. So, and actually think about it, the value of not being definite. What about this? We don't have to, we're not experienced, we're not experts. And often when we take jobs as doing assessments, you would, as even if we are, even people who are expert make fundamentally huge mistakes. There was a case I was thinking about this week in the UK in the 80s. There was an organisation where they were diagnosing children because of some physical anal dilation. These doctors were saying these were all victims of sexual abuse. And all these children went into foster care, and there was this massive blow up with social services between the police doctors and these hospital doctors who were making diagnoses, and social workers, all around the misdiagnosis of children having suffered sexual abuse. Because doctors had said, yes, here's a problem, they're definitely more, and there was this massive kind of a strange anomaly in the statistics of child sexual abuse in Cleveland in the UK, where all of a sudden there were massive numbers they ran out of beds in social care services, and they had to open a ward up in a hospital because of this massive urgent need because of sexual abuse running rampant. And it was just proven to be wrong. So the idea that we are experts in things, we're not really. We're here to kind of make some assumptions and kind of say, we don't know, but there's certainly something there. This guy doesn't have a problem for no reason whatsoever. And as long as we can list what potentially people need to look for, then we're on the right track. We've done our jobs, and that's what we are here for. So one last one. Should we go to, let's go to one other one. I've lost me, here we go. I've got one more, which is Maria. What do we think about Maria? What's Maria's situation?
She's an Italian lady who's experiencing some domestic violence from her husband.
And, yeah.
Her kids aren't close by. She hasn't got a lot of support around her.
And she has a fear of being ostracised from all of her friends in her church. Her local community, pretty much. So
Okay.
I think she's probably going to be reluctant to sort of come forward or want help, pretty much.
Okay. So, so we've got Maria. She's Italian background, limited English. We need an interpreter for her. Now, that is one of the referrals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interpreter service is an appropriate referral. So you could put that down.
On one of our appendix ones?
Yeah. Any referring agency that you contact. So, all right. Let's stick with this. So this was a mandatory report because Maria was a victim of domestic violence. So what do we want to, what can we identify as being support agencies for Maria?
Sorry, can I just ask something?
Yeah.
Is there mandatory reporting on adults over the age of 18 that are in domestic violence situations?
No, she's older and frail. Anybody who's vulnerable, unless, I mean,
Okay.
if somebody, if you identify somebody as having something like an intellectual disability or a mental health problem, and any sort of thing, let's say somebody that you know has a mental health issue and they're being sexually abused by a doctor or a care worker or something,
Yeah.
and they're not capable. Again, Carly, I'll verify this week. I've got an excellent video for you, which I'll load up, which is
See,
about...
I thought with adults, it has to be with their consent to report.
No.
No, okay.
Can I just feeding into just asking about that, because Maria has lied about what's happened to her. Would it suggest that she's probably consistently lied about what he's been doing to her? I mean, she can't get away with that at home, but even at her local church, she probably hasn't been going and taking her bruised up face down to the local church. So if she's not willing to actually come forward and verify that he is actually attacking her, then where...
Yeah. Sorry.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's have a think about this. I think Maria's ashamed. She feels shame about being a victim. This is quite a common thing. People who are victims are reluctant to tell other people, and then they feel in some ways, and they're made to feel responsible as well, right? This is one of the big things about children and sexual abuse. Children don't necessarily always feel like they're victims. They feel like they're active participants. This is one of the big problems. Children, in some cases, might enjoy some of their experiences to some extent, and that they feel guilty about that. That doesn't mean that because they enjoy it, that should become an experience that they should have. And these mixed feelings are conflicting for the victims, and this is why it's such an insidious, horrible crime, because the victims feel such a sense of shame, and they are the victims. You know, whether it's sexual abuse amongst children or domestic violence, where the husband, you made me do that because, you know, you talked back to me again, didn't you? You know, these crimes are, they're never kind of, especially when they're perpetrated over years, you know, they're always somehow justified by the...
I lived in Italy for a year, and it's culturally appropriate there. It's not seen from a cultural perspective. It's not seen as an unusual thing. Like, and the victims have to kind of go along with what the husbands are doing, because, you know, there isn't really the support to bring it up. You know what I mean?
And there was a guide out a couple of months ago in Saudi Arabia. You know, how to beat your wife appropriately. You know, it's good they've got a guide.
Yeah, they need them. They need all the guides they can get, don't they?
I mean, it is anyway. Yeah, culturally. So actually, Sally, you've just hit something that's really important, haven't you? There's a cultural issue. This isn't just a simple thing that we're facing here, because you've conflicted. You've made that problem more complex, haven't you? Because Maria might believe that she needs to accept that behavior because she is from that culture, and that's another reason that that we need to be able to help Maria understand her rights. And that even maybe by going out, she's conflicted, because by speaking out against her husband, she's taking away what his normal rights would be in Italy, for example.
Yeah.
So maybe maybe that is so actually thinking about that, what are the referrals you want to make? Can we make a referral around that point? Sally, can you think of an appropriate referral around that point?
around the cultural point.
Yeah, around the fact that Maria's living in Australia. She's still got her roots in Italy.
So would there be councils, I mean, in some places, I mean, I live up in Cairns, so Mariba, we have a large Italian population.
That's
so
why
there
your
might be more
background looks so
Italians.
nice, Sally.
Yeah. Yes,
That's why we're all
sorry,
sitting
guys,
here
I'm in the
jealous as
tropics.
hell, looking at that going, where the hell does she live?
I'm sorry, I do most of my work outside, so this is my excuse for being here on Sunday afternoon. Yeah, so Mariba's Italian. I know Melbourne has a large Italian population down there as well, and there's more. And I was actually married to an Italian myself, so I mean, I'm aware that there's a lot of Italian services that are out there. Certainly in certain places, for people that have lived in Italy and are now living in Australia. So would, maybe an Italian counselling service or...
Where might you get one of those? Where would you find that thing?
They do have CALD support services though, everywhere. I was even looking up for like refuges for women for domestic violence, and they actually have within their centre, they have people that are specifically trained to deal with people from various cultures and stuff like that. So they do cater for that. Like I know they do within the refuges that they refer women to. So,
but it's an interesting thing, Danny, because you said refuge. Does she need the refuge?
Well, unless she wanted to get an AVO, like, no.
Danny, Sally's going, yeah, I'm going.
I mean, it is her house. It is, yeah, that's the confusing part because it's her house and she should get to stay there. But she also needs to go with someone where they can arrange like a safety plan for her and that sort of stuff. I suppose that's what they do with women of domestic violence.
You're right, but we're not really aware that she's at risk of violence now.
If Maria is old and frail, and even if Maria is aging and she's not in the best of health, and she has an interpreter, well then maybe the interpreter can find out from Maria herself whether she actually feels at risk, whether she doesn't feel at risk, whether she feels that the way her husband is behaving is a part of her cultural acceptance. I mean, 70s may be a difficult age to start having to relearn a whole new kind of way of being, and then even if her kids are not agreeing with her situation, she's still not automatically going to her children. So, she may not see that those solutions are actually the most appropriate for her.
But it's escalating. That's sort of the worrying part. Obviously, like the physical violence is escalated now to a point where, it may end up killing her. So,
yeah, and the police are involved. So,
yeah,
the police charged her. So
can we see?
Charged hubby.
Her husband has left the property.
Yeah, and the police have charged him.
Now, one of the things I want to point out is that domestic violence refuges are highly sought after locations because then they're kind of medium-term accommodation solutions. They're not emergency, they're not long-term, but they might be for a month or two. So the spaces are taken and they're difficult to get into. And I don't know that Maria might get into one because we're not presenting a threat on her behalf. We're not saying that she's under immediate threat. The husband's left the property. She's got accommodation. So she's got accommodation and that she doesn't need a refuge. She's not immediately vulnerable because there's no threat that we're aware of. The husband's been taken away. She has been recently beaten. That's okay. But the police have become involved and we're not clear that the husband is going to perpetrate again. Now,
I found a service for Maria called Cara House, which is in Burwood in Melbourne.
Yeah.
They offer a lot of services for women in domestic violence situations, but specialise in diverse cultures and linguistic backgrounds.
Beautiful. And is that a residential placement?
they can support, like they can give her counselling, they can give her advice on finances and income, legal services. They can pretty much help her with all her options, all within the one place.
But Carly, is it residential or is it a drop-in service or?
Yeah, no, it's not a residential. I think they have areas of immediate relief for people, but they do just offer counselling and services for women in those kind of situations.
Where did you find that service?
Where did I find it? On the internet.
Yeah, whereabouts on the internet? On Google?
Oh, well, it's called Cara House.
No, where did you go looking on the internet? Can you tell everyone how you found that?
I was Googling Italian.
So you went through Google, okay.
Yeah, I went through Google. I sat there one day, I don't really know exactly how I found it. It was on the internet. I looked up heaps of services.
Gold. So you just followed your nose on Google.
Yeah, I had to. A lot wasn't coming up, so I had to get a bit more specific with Maria in my search as Italian, put a few more things in the search for Maria.
Yeah.
But that's what I came up with.
Very good, very good. That sounds right, doesn't it? I'm not convinced that she needs a refuge. And I keep, one of the things I try, my job is, coming from the sector, is to kind of give you a grounding in what goes on in the sector. If you don't present an imminent need for certain services, and emergency accommodation services are some of the most difficult things to access, whether it's domestic violence refuge or they're highly sought after placements, and there's a lot of need. So I don't think Maria would qualify, to be honest. I think people would say, I understand the problem. You obviously got a situation. She's not in the best health, but there you go. We can't give it.
So what other things can we do then? Like, can we look at maybe helping her with legal support and advocacy maybe in court?
Maybe. You know, Danny, Carly's just come up with one service, which is an excellent one, but you know, Sally needs to find something in Cairns, unfortunately, that is the same. Or it could be.
I live in Gunnedah.
Sorry, you live in where? Gunnedah?
Gunnedah? Yeah.
There must be
I don't know what to choose from.
violence up in Gunnedah, isn't there?
We have a lot of services in Cairns.
But there's not a lot of different services. There's like maybe one main place in town that, like the Gunnedah Family Support, that pretty much offers everything. So I'm a little bit.
That's okay. You write that down.
But how am I going to come up with 5 if we don't even have 5 in town?
No, you go. Write the name of the client down and write down, I want to find some mental health services, mental health assessment, Gunnedah Family. All right. And then I want to find DV support counselling, Gunnedah. And then I want to find.
Okay.
Don't worry.
That's okay.
Don't worry, Danny. We're not going to be overly selective because you've gone to one service because that's all that's available in your region. This is one of the things is we're helping you to identify where you find services for your clients, you know. So don't worry about that. It's not.
I feel better now.
Cairns is full of services.
Really? Okay. There's great need, obviously.
Well, I think a lot of people come to live up in Cairns because, you know, it is kind of easy living in terms of its nice weather and, people can live sort of more simply and more cheaply, I guess, as well. So pensions might stretch a little bit further and that kind of thing. So I think maybe that's sort of where maybe some of those sort of services have developed from.
Right.
But we get a fair amount of runaways. I've got a fair amount, sort of got a percentage of street kids up here as well. And then there's quite a lot of Aboriginal services up here because we do have a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders living up here as well. So.
I tell you what, Sally, we haven't touched on that with Kylie.
Yeah.
Because Kylie was identified as an Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander, but she was referred by that service. Maybe we won't talk about that because I think that adds a level of complexity we don't need right now. Anyway, It's like we've been kicking along for a long time. We'll stop now. Let me say.
Can I just ask one quick question before you go? Sorry.
Yeah.
On this assessment sheet, it says that we have to do a 250-word report outlining.
Thank you, Kylie. Thank you.
Is that for the next part of the assessment, or is this part of the assessment?
Yeah, you got to write 250 words under how agencies network and meet each other and things. So
Per like per.
No, just 250 words. Oh,
just at the bottom of our assignment.
Yeah,
okay.
Just do it like that, Danny. Thank you for bringing this up, because it's not very clear how this works because there's no formatting. But yeah, 250 words only, not 5 times 250 words. Just about how agents might communicate as I was talking to Carly about how did she find out about that agency, so agencies might have a web profile, but in terms of sharing information with other agencies, they might do some network meetings. They might go and do some interagency visits. So for example, if you work for one service and you're continually referring clients to another service, ring them up and take the afternoon to go and say hello and invite yourself around, shake hands with people. And I've done this, I promise you, you just do it of your own accord, and you find that you make friends with people, and then it's so much easier to get things done. Oh, hello, Jane. I spoke to you last week. Yeah, how's your dog? Yeah, good. Can I send someone? Yeah, send someone over, no problem. And it becomes like that, and that's how jobs get done. Now, this is how we work in the sector, So you meet people, and so you got to be super friendly and nice with everybody. And even though you meet some people who are a complete pain in the backside, you kind of go, yeah, oh, how are you? Treat them like your best friend. Because somehow you'll end up going, can I have? And they will go, yes, you can. Because if you go with your hand out and you hate them, and there's a lot of freaks in this job. Don't say that. That's true.
I have a quick question too, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So with part B, the client interviews.
Yeah.
Are we doing them week 6 or week 7?
Oh, did we have a look at that? We did. Sorry, we did have a look at that. Let me shrink this and find out where did we put that. That was.
Can we do that at the workshop?
Yeah,
that's what I thought we were doing too.
Yeah,
I think that's where we get marked. Yeah, for the
workshop. You're not doing Zoom. You're not doing Zoom interviews.
I think it might be the workshop.
It says on the bottom of the form, online students are to conduct an assessment interview for a maximum of 20 minutes at the workshop.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure how that worked because nobody told me. Is that so? You're going in person in real life to a?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the campus. I know the Melbourne one's the 23rd of July.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that is week 7.
Week 7. Yeah.
23rd of July. Okay, but let me help you out with that as well, because if we go back to, oh, that's not it, is it? Where were we before? Over here. If we go here, and again, I'll show you. It's on the. I'll put this link down, but I've already made one of the. All of this you can do on one form. So print out this form, or take a laptop with you, or print it out and then type it up. Now, what's happening there? We don't want that to. Oh no, that's. Well, this is something's going on here. I don't know what this is. It says okay. We don't want to do that. Let's try that. Oh, let's do that. Okay, so if we enable editing, let's. Sorry. I've got this somewhere else on my phone. So I've got this Word document for you. So it's got the intake form here. So this is the first bit. And then below that, we've got your assessment form. I've made up your assessment form with some information for you.
Awesome.
So
That's really good.
yeah, so you use this, and you know, assessment. Which assessment was it? The first one you do in week 7, and then you have to you do the Zoom assessment. You fill this in the Zoom assessment, and then your next assessment, Zoom, your assessment 3, is it 2B and 2C, are to complete this document. 2B you complete up to page 3, and 2C you complete up to page 4 up to page 6, page 5 maybe. Recommendations, case plans. So that's part 2C. Case plan goals for the client.
And that's the one due in, that must be the one due in week 10, is it?
Like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, okay.
this is week 7, 8, and 10, I think, isn't it? Let's go back to let's shrink that back
There's
down.
nothing due week 8.
Week 10 then. Subject info.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all due week 10, I think, aren't
Yeah.
they?
So the assessment report is pages 2 to 6, and the case management plan, but then you've got to fill in a referral to the support service. So that's another document, which is a referral document where you just identify one of the ones we've talked about, and you just fill in the referral form. And I think that's not in here. That is in, where did we put that? Oh, that's in the templates here. In the templates, there's a referral form, which looks very much like the first form. Very similar. Client referral, service referral, appendix 5. So that goes in here. Don't look, these forms that I'm showing you, they're not all the assessment form that I've shown you. That's not available in that appendix. You've got to go to the filing cabinet. So you just fill it in.
Oh, it's pretty easy then.
I think it's just one. I think you just do, one for each client, I beg your pardon.
Okay.
One assessment form for one client, but then you need 3 of these, one for each of the clients. So one for Aaron, one from Kylie, and one for Maria. Only of this form. The other form I was telling you about, this form, the assessment form, only fill in one of these. You choose which one you want. You can choose Aaron, Maria, or Kylie.
Oh, okay.
Download one of these and 3 of the others. You're right, Sally. So you look a little.
Yeah. No, sorry. No, it was good. Yep. No, I'm good.
I've written it down, so they're a nice little guide. You're meant to put about 50 words in each one. Write about 50 words in each section about, just explain what the circumstances are around when you have your Zoom interview. Okay. So
when are we having our Zoom interview?
Sorry, not Zoom interview, on-campus interview.
Workshop.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah. That's okay.
Clear as mud, yes. Any more?
Can I just...
Yeah.
Just with the workshop and then with the interview, the 20-minute interview, are we in that interview for 20 minutes? Are we supposed to be like conducting an intake session all the way through from start to end?
You fill in this form, Sally. That's what I'm telling you. Take the form with you.
Right.
That's my advice to you. Take this form, fill this form in, write some notes, and then go back home and type up the notes, but flesh it out. So where it says housing situation with Aaron, right? Don't say Aaron living at home, full stop. Don't write that. Write living at home with family, conflict with father. Father is upset and has asked Aaron to leave. Aaron is at risk of imminent homelessness. You flesh that out into be about 50 words. You need about 50 words per thing here.
Yeah.
Okay, so each one of these, 50 or so words. School. Aaron has stopped attending school since he had a problem which is undiagnosed. and risk indicators, concerns that Aaron is possibly using substances, concerns that Aaron might have, problems with trauma, concerns that Aaron might have problems with gender identity or sexuality, concerns that Aaron might have experienced grief and loss, concerns that Aaron might have a mental health problem or a drug and alcohol abuse situation leading to presenting needs. That kind of language. Use that sort of language. Write a number of things down. Alcohol and drugs, write down. And you can write a rationale, but write some statements. Don't write documents necessarily. Write some statements like, given Aaron's presenting situation, he might possibly be using substances, given his withdrawal from people around him, his family, his aggression. The aggression and the withdrawal or social isolation might indicate a dual diagnosis, so he might be experiencing use of drugs and mental health at the same time. Something like that, kind of flesh it into about 50 words. You've got to write some sentences down here that would be, imagine this, imagine you're communicating in a courtroom. Do you know why I've said that?
Because it has to be all
notes may
factual.
be used.
Well, it has to be all factual information.
Yes.
Because it may be used in a court if it's subpoenaed, maybe?
That is entirely correct, because it is a legal document. And if you are writing stuff like, Aaron seems a bit crazy to me, you're going to be in big trouble if you go to court.
So we shouldn't write down Nutty as a fruitcake?
No, that sort of terminology, probably not useful. We shouldn't be laughing, actually. We should. I meant to frown on that language, but I am exactly the same as you guys. We do occasionally lapse. But no, you've got to think about this. Is a legal document, so you're meant to write clear, factual-based statement and write things you don't know. What I'm suspicious of, Aaron seems to be, it appears that there is a chance that this could be the case. That sort of language, because you're not an expert, because if you wrote something else down, it goes into court. But this is how you write these documents.
Yeah, because the client can look at it as well, and it's probably unprofessional. If you're being judgmental, they're probably not really going to want to cooperate with you either. So
that's entirely right as well. It is the client's information, and you've got to treat it like the client's baby. You've got to think about, imagine if somebody handed you a baby, you wouldn't just throw it around. You would treat it with kid gloves, and you've got to treat client's information with that same respect, that you show it gentleness and care and nurture it, and you don't just leave it for strangers to wander off with. You don't throw it away. You don't leave it in the corner unattended. You don't leave it on the table for other people to look at. Imagine it's a baby, and treat it with respect until you hide it away in a cupboard. That's how I've looked after all my kids.
Has it worked out well for them?
I've not heard from them since. Yeah. So no, really, you've got to be very. It's hard to find the correct analogy with people's information, but something like that, something nurturing. We will be. I would fill this form in. There's plenty of. By the time you filled in this with 50 to 100 words, you'll have done your job perfectly. Hand that over, and you will pass with flying colours. This is not a problem at all, okay? But we'll go through this again a little bit more, because next week we're talking about risks and duty of care. So we'll be going back to our clients again to talk about risks and duty of care. And yeah, good. Any questions? Any more questions?
No, I'm good.
We'll be back Wednesday at 7 o'clock. You have a lovely evening, everybody. And it's all dark in the rest of the world, but it's still light in the heads, isn't it? Yeah, we're not jealous, Sally. We're not jealous at all.
You're very welcome to come and visit.
Well, I'll take you up on that. Free holidays. Oh yes.
Hey, I've got a spare room or two.
Take care. Everyone sorted?
Yeah.
Everyone happy? Good. Lovely. Have a lovely start of the week. Have a nice evening. Thank you for your time.
Will do.
I'll see you
Thanks,
next
everyone.
Thank you.
time.
Well, see you. Bye.
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 We'll press the end meeting bit now. Okay. Bye.